Mel, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here, going through the rest of the miners. Usually I get maybe like a dollar or something like that for doing a video like this, but I figure it doesn't really matter. I just want to go through these miners and gonna kind of go through doing the same thing as I did for the big six that I just did. This is BTDR. This is probably the one that has been shining the most, especially today. I think it went up like 20% today. The bottom line is this: it looks like it's at hitting resistance. I don't really need to pull any kind of fancy indicators to tell you that we're at resistance because we are finally back to the IPO price around $10 and we got rejected. Is that a surprise? No. What are the whales doing so far for the month of June? Well, this big giant green candle over here is associated with some pretty interesting whalish activity here. I can pull out the rest of the stuff. It's not really going to show you too much. Ichimoku Cloud, yeah. Sufiji Cloud, eh. Bollinger Band. It's interesting that it got over the 20-month moving average. And the 20-month moving average has not yet served as a strong resistance. Now, could the month of June end up pushing this candle back underneath the 20-month moving average, which is going to be around 8.5 or so? Possible, but so far there's no indication that that's the case. It already challenged the 20-month moving average several times already. So this is a potentially pretty bullish development, both in terms of 20-month moving average reclaiming, as well as the whalish behavior here. Let's look at other time frames here real quick. The 2-week time frame, where you're going to see whalish activity. It's hard to know whether or not this is just one candle or just if this is a trend. I like to see more if possible, but this volume so far for the month of June has been excellent. If you look at the weekly, you might see a little bit more of a trend, whether increase in whale activity, increase in price, or increase in volume. And if you also look at the Ichimoku Cloud, you can see that it makes a little bit more sense. Price was underneath the cloud for a very, very long time, and then finally was able to break above the cloud on just one candle over here, initially getting sort of rejected here by the baseline, but it's looking pretty decent. If you look at the Bollinger Band, you can see that the price has kind of gone way outside the upper Bollinger Band. This is one of the few miners that you're seeing on the weekly. You actually see an expansion. Looks like it wants to go higher, but I do think we're a little bit overextended. Plus, just the very fact that we're right at IPO price, there's just going to be strong resistance. There's a lot of supply that needs to dump on people. So I think we're at resistance is way outside the upper Bollinger Band on the weekly. It might need to have some time to cool down, but it's good that the whales are kind of coming in. That's usually something that's pretty promising. If you look at what I have here with kind of like a Gann chart here, I'm gonna basically pull over here. You can see that this kind of increase in volume, this kind of whalish activity, initially it was kind of bouncing between these two arcs over here. The greater arc and the minor arc down here is kind of bouncing up and down, up and down. Eventually, with this big giant volume, we're able to kind of break above it. And you are hitting some pretty strong resistance right around here. We'll see whether or not we get through, but probably need to have some kind of cool down. You remember last week I was telling you before this big giant green candle, there are two stocks that I think technically was looking much better when it comes to the miners that I do not own, which is basically every single one that I'm going to talk about today. BTDR is one of them, BTDR is one of them, and sure enough, it has turned out to be pretty darn bullish, right? Where it's going to go, if it ends up pushing above this IPO price over here, which I think is also a 0.618 Fibonacci level, the golden ratio is going to be pretty strong resistance here. If it's able to push back out there, it might take another few weeks for it to do so. The next natural target is going to be this top arc right here, which is where it got rejected over here in December 2023. If it's able to reclaim this top arc right here around 12 bucks, around 13 bucks or so, then you're talking about potentially push above back to previous all-time high around 14.75. And then you might be talking about hitting some of the targets up here around 20 to 22. That might be potentially the end of the cycle. What if it doesn't end there? Well, I mean, I suppose it could go up and hit some of these higher targets up here at the top of the arc over here around maybe 30, 35 or so. That's entirely possible, but you are hitting resistance right as we speak, right around 10 bucks. So we'll see. That's BTDR, BTDR. The other one that really kind of caught my eye, and actually wouldn't think that I would say this, was HUD 8. HUD 8 actually doesn't look too bad, and I'm going to show you why I say that. Look at a monthly, is still at a very, very strong resistance horizontal zone. You don't even need to have any like indicator. You can see that around 10, 11 bucks is very, very strong resistance level over here, right? Last cycle it was, this cycle it was. And it's unfortunate. Look at Ichimoku Cloud, no bullish cross quite just yet. Although it might be getting there, maybe take another couple of months for you to have the bullish cross before potentially push up higher. But you're getting there. Price has gone sideways long enough for you to actually start to have something potentially decent going on. 20-month moving average is flat. Price is currently above that. Again, it got above that, it got below that, it's just been oscillating around it, so there's no guarantee, but I like the fact that it's flat. It's just kind of oscillating, building up energy. You also see a little bit of increase in whale activity here for HUD 8 as well for the month, and that's also potentially promising. What about the 2-week? Slightly increase in whale activity, slightly increase in buying pressure in terms of buying volume, right? Very nice candle here so far, again hitting resistance. But you have some, pretty decent things here that are brewing. On the weekly here, you see that this uptrend over the last several weeks tend to be on increase in whalish behavior and increase in volume. So that is potentially the beginning of something a little bit bigger. Maybe it's going to pull up a little bit higher and challenge some of the higher levels. It was able to break above this 11 and a half kind of resistance level over here. We will see. A couple other things. I'm going to put the Bollinger Band here. You can see a Bollinger Band has squeezed. Looks like it is anticipating a bigger move to kind of come. So you could potentially end up having some, short-term bullishness for HUD 8 until it maybe hits some of the levels up here, maybe around 15. It might end up getting rejected. It might end up chop before going up higher. But it's starting to look pretty decent here for HUD 8. Now, finally looking at the GAN, looks like we've just been kind of oscillating around here at this angle over here for a very, very long time, getting rejected by this curve over here initially. Looks like we're able to push above that. And we also are in the process of pushing above this, $10, $11 range over here, which is the horizontal zone right here. And if we're able to, break above 14.64, which I think probably getting rejected right around here before bouncing around, before going up. But you're talking about 14.64, and then you can challenge the arc up here, which is around like 16. If you're able to pass all of this, then you're talking about potentially challenging the angle up here, the line up here close to previous all-time high, and you might talk about going a lot higher. But with that said, HUD 8 is a major laggard. Even if you put up the Ichimoku Cloud on the weekly, it is still underneath the Ichimoku Cloud, which is why I think that price is probably going to end up getting rejected around 14 or so. It's going to have a hard time kind of getting above because it hasn't really even challenged the weekly cloud over here for quite some time. So it's going to have some problems. I wouldn't necessarily just let the short-term whalish activity to get me blindsided and buy into HUD. I am going to step back out and keep a close eye on it and see what happens. RIOT, this is one of many people's favorite because this is one of many people's favorite from last cycle, and they have been looking at it. And unfortunately, whales have not returned. You don't have any bullish momentum going quite just yet here on the monthly chart. And on the Ichimoku, you still have a bearish cross. Price is still below the Tenkan Nikkei and way underneath the cloud. So far, no confirmation. So far, resistance above of it. So you're still not quite there, but it is able to reclaim the 20-month moving average. You remember when I was saying that if the 20-month moving average is pointing up, most likely it's not going to serve as very, very good resistance. Just like if it's going down, it's probably not usually going to serve as good support. And right now it looks like it's able to kind of push back above it in the month of June so far. So we'll see whether or not we're able to hold the 20-month moving average and reclaim it as support. But you can see this is a lot lower than even like Bitfarms, Mara. You can see that the other, larger cap stocks, larger cap Bitcoin miners, they are a lot further away from the 20-month moving average, or at least got close to it and then didn't really fall underneath of it. RIOT just kind of fell underneath of it and is just trying to come back up and try to reclaim it. So it probably still has a little bit of work to do here on the monthly. If you're looking at the 2-week, you still don't really see whalish activity. Price is still kind of just ranging. And if you look at the weekly, you may see a little bit of whalish activity, but it hasn't really been reliable. Maybe a potential little bit of a trend change here, but there's no confirmation. Probably just gone sideways over here. If you put the Ichimoku cloud still underneath the weekly Ichimoku cloud, this candle over here looks like a very, very good bottom in April 15th or so. This candle over here looks like a very good bottom. So I don't think it's going to necessarily go back down further than that, but it's going to have some resistance up here around like the $11, $12, $13 range that is going to have to battle. It's going to have a lot of demons to try to fight. On the Bollinger Band, it's still underneath the 20-week moving average. It's got resistance above, and whalish activity has not been coming in yet. So I'm still a little bit skeptical when it comes to RIOT in terms of its short term. Long term, it probably is still going to do okay. Looking at the GAN, from that very nice April 15 candle here, bounced off for a very nice hammer bottom, and since then it's just been going sideways. It just looked kind of like what Tesla has been doing over the last several weeks. Done nothing, just gone sideways, and it is trying to use this angle over here as support. And what it does need to do is to really break above this Fibonacci level over here, which is the 0.136, which is around $13.6, and an arc right above it, which is where it also got rejected recently. You may be able to break above this confluence of resistance. Then you're really talking about like 29, 46, 44, somewhere around there. And after it breaks all that, then you might talk about some of our targets up here, although, like around 200 and things like that. Although I'm not sure whether or not RIOT has the enough energy to kind of push back up. We'll see how it does over, later on in the cycle. But so far, it doesn't look, that impulsive at all. Things can change in a hurry. You never know, right? Looking at the monthly Ichimoku cloud, again, the confluent zone up here, you only see a lot of resistance around 30s, because that's also where the top of the monthly cloud is located. Maybe even lower, around 27, around 25, somewhere around there. So you're going to end up getting a lot of confluence of resistance at the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud and this arc right here before going up further. So we'll see whether or not it has enough juice, enough energy to really allow it to kind of push through. That's RIOT. Next thing you know, looking at Bit Digital, this is the modified RIOT. RIOT is, looking actually very, very similar to BTBT. Let me just basically shut this thing off over here and clean it out. Except that BTBT is having a little bit more whalish behavior, right? A little bit more on the monthly. Ichimoku Cloud looks a little bit better. Didn't have a bearish cross. It's just getting rejected here by the Kijun, by the baseline over here on the monthly. And, eventually I think it's going to end up flipping about, probably get rejected here at the 10 getting the blue line, and it's probably going to end up squeezing here for a little bit before going up. That's kind of where I'm seeing what BTBT is going to end up doing. So the precise prices that you're talking about with BTBT between these levels is going to be around 2.9 and 3.5. It might end up bouncing here for a little bit before potentially pushing up higher, right? But so far it's just been consolidating for about a year, and there's not really a clear whalish momentum here, unfortunately. Now look at the 2-week chart. Maybe a little bit of a pickup of whalish behavior, but again, so far it's just been oscillating. It's trendless. It has no trend. If you look over at the weekly, same thing. It has no trend. Although over the last few weeks, it does have a little bit of increase in whalish behavior, and the volume did go up a little bit on the way up. But there's still no confirmation. Look at the Bollinger Band, though. I think something big might be happening soon, because the Bollinger Band is squeezy. It means that, whenever you have enough consolidation going on, Bollinger Band starts to contract. And when it contracts, generally means that a bigger move is coming, right? So I favor up because it's on a higher part of the Bollinger Band. It's also reclaimed the bull market support band. So there's a potential for it to really push up to the 3.1 range up here, right? Which is what I was talking about in terms of the, the monthly tank is actually around 3.5, right? And also look at the weekly chart. You can see that the Kijun baseline over here is also 3.5. So a couple of important levels, right? One is the top of the Bollinger Band here is 3.1. The other one is going to be up here around 3.5. And the 3.1 may also be confluent with the bottom of the cloud over here, and it's trying to push through above this 3.1 level. After that, it's going to be 3.5, which is going to be confluent with this top of Ichimoku cloud right up here. We'll see whether or not we have enough whalish energy. Looks like on the way up over here, volume tend to have gone down a little bit, but a bigger move is coming. So we'll see whether or not BTBT would work out well or not. I did mention a few weeks ago if I had to pick two out of all these miners I'm talking about in this video, I probably last week I probably picked BTDR, which has gone up a lot since I said that, and then BTBT, which is starting to have a little bit more of a bullish setup with it with the price, really starting to get over the bull market support band with increase in wellish behavior coming in. Right? So that's another one that I'm kind of a little bit paying attention. Hive, it's just a major lagger. It looks worse than like HUD and Riot. No whale activity really, maybe a little bit increase with this green candle, but there's no trend. And volume has just been going down with this consolidation. It's just been really boring. Ichimoku Cloud, no bullish cross. Cloud is way above the current price action. Looking at the Bollinger Band, again, it's underneath the 20-month moving average. It hasn't even tried to reclaim that yet, so that's going to serve as resistance until proven otherwise. If you're looking at the 2-week chart, maybe a little bit increasing wellish behavior, but there's no trend. If you're looking at the weekly chart, maybe a little bit of pickup of wellish behavior here. We'll see whether or not that's sustainable. You do have a little bit of good volume coming in for Hive, but the problem is it's still going to be under resistance up here, the Ichimoku Cloud around $4. It is starting to reclaim the weekly conversion line. The blue line is starting to get underneath of that. This is a good sign for it, but you're still going to have a lot of resistance up here around the $4 zone. So we'll see. We'll see. I do like the increased volume. I do like the slightly increased whale, but again, there's no trend. Right? If you also look at the GAN here, you can see like it bounced from the bottom of this horizontal zone. It bounced from the angle. It looks like the next stop is like 3.5 or maybe around $4. Right? So it's probably going to end up hitting that zone, probably going to get rejected, maybe go around the curve down here and the arc down here a little bit before building up enough energy and kind of push through, challenge the cloud again over here. That's what I'm kind of suspecting if I have to predict. So that was Hive. I'm going to shut down that again here. A lot of people are talking about GREE. I got chart request on GREE not long ago. It went up 11% today. Very green candle over here. Wells seem to have come back here so far. So a lot of kind of positive thing coming out this week. You also just zoom out a little bit more, look at the monthly. It didn't really have any whales over the last four months, but they're starting to come back here. Still trendless. It's still kind of just going sideways over here in terms of whale activity, sideways over here in terms of price, and also the volume has just been very, very uninteresting. So far, not really a whole lot to look at. Ichimoku Cloud way underneath the Tenkan Nikkei. There's no sign for it having any kind of bullish cross quite just yet. Lots of resistance above 20-month moving average pointing down. Although you are getting quite squeezed here, you might be looking for a bigger move. It could potentially push up. It could potentially do some like crazy move from like $3.50 over here. It can potentially just push all the way up to like $7.50. It's possible. It is possible, but it's gambling. The 20-month moving average is flattening, right? I can't imagine this doing too badly if Bitcoin does really well, but it is at resistance. I would not bet on the bullish scenario right underneath the resistance around like 4.4. But it is getting squeezy. So hey, if you want to, it could be very, very, very high risk and very high reward. So looking at the weekly here, you can see that on the weekly it also has been very, very squeezy. It is starting to kind of reclaim the bull market support band over here. I can see that potentially going up to like the 4.4 range up here and potentially getting rejected over here and then consolidating a little bit before maybe a little bit more explosive move. But so far you're still at resistance. There's no confirmation it's going to reclaim the bull market support band quite just yet. So we'll see what happens. Again, so far maybe a little bit of a whale-ish momentum here for this week, but there's no guarantee that this is a trend. DigiHost, DGHI. Gonna look at the Ichimoku Cloud here on the monthly. On the monthly, looks like you had a bullish cross of prices underneath both the Tenkan Nikkei. This is not a bad look, to be honest with you, but there's no confirmation that wells are coming back and volume is still plummeting. So far it's still underneath a lot of resistance up here, around 1.7, 1.6, somewhere up here. So far it's still, not pushing up yet because of a lot of resistance. Even the kitchen, the baseline is serving as resistance so far this month, right? Price trying to wick above, got slept down insofar as like 1.43. If you look at the weekly tells you that you're also trying to break above resistance here on the weekly Ichimoku cloud, but so far unable to do so. You do have a little bit of a whalish momentum here for this week, but there's no trend. Right? That's problematic. There's no trend. Look at the Bollinger Band is still underneath the 20-week moving average, is still underneath the Bollinger support band. So I probably won't touch it, but if I have to choose one, I don't know, this probably is still going to be like the middle of the pack for me. Things can change in a hurry. I want to keep saying that things can change in a hurry, and if you are in this, and even if it ends up getting rejected up higher, but if you end up making like 50% profit, I don't know. I don't want to stop you from making money. This is not financial advice or anything like that. So interesting. CA and Canon, these guys are Bitcoin miner machine producers and distributors. It's forming a little bit of bear flag up here, but you also have a little bit of increase in whalish activity. This consolidation is happening with declining volume. It's kind of like I don't know what to say. The biggest problem I have is really the monthly, because if you look at the monthly, the trend is down. The 20-month moving average is pointing down. The bullish band expanding downwards, allowing price to drop down even further. Like, I would not be in this, right? Ichimoku cloud, no cross quite just yet. Still a falling knife. I don't know whether or not I would want to be in it. No whalish activity that I can see, right? There's also another one, the GRYP Great Fund. It's a falling knife. You know, if you look at the monthly, Bollinger Band continue to expand all the way down to the downside, and price just keeps on going down. This is a falling knife. 20-month moving average is down. Even the price goes drastically up to like $3.5 or $4, you're going to see resistance. So I guess that's still a lot of gains, though, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a lot of gains, but this is risky. It's a falling knife. There's no guarantee it's going to revert back to the median, to the mean here, because it didn't really do that for like 3 years. It didn't really get back to the mean for 3 years. So not going to look at too much. Got rejected here at the Tenkan, at the conversion line. Hasn't looked back since, right? It just kept going down. If you look at the weekly, again, also getting rejected here by the conversion line, and just kept going down. No whalish activity, way underneath the cloud. Bad, right? If you look over at the Bollinger Band here on the weekly, again, weekly Bollinger Band is like all the way down. Maybe a little bit of trend change. I don't know, but I don't like the fact that the 20-week moving average in the Bollinger Silver Band is like pointing way down and could serve as resistance over here at around like $1.8, $1.92. Probably not something I want to get into. You know what? Something is crazy though. You remember how I was saying that CORZ might have been a little bit overextended? Well, you know, it doesn't matter because overextension can keep going. This company went bankrupt. They just came public again around January, and there's really nothing to chart, you know. So, but regardless, you have two very, very big green candle over here break out from the previous start of this rebirth of this stock, right? There's no monthly chart that I can really provide, no Bollinger Band, no Ichimoku cloud, nothing, because it's just this new stock just hasn't really been around for that long, right? Even for the weekly, I don't really have a whole lot to show you, with the exception that you can start to see that, hey, on the Bollinger Band, it's been it's been 20 weeks. The 20-week moving just pointing up, the Bollinger Band is expanding, but price is way outside the weekly upper Bollinger Band, right? Way outside weekly upper Bollinger Band. Probably going to end up getting punished later on. If you look at the daily, it's been riding up the daily Bollinger Band. It's been correcting over here. It just got way too far extended, right? It's been correcting over here for a couple of days, and it just kept going up. This is a pretty incredible chart. Whale activity has been very, very, very strong. And just like over here, whale activity has been very, very, very strong. I don't care. I still wouldn't get into this. I hate chasing. I don't know what to make out of the technicals because there's just not enough information for it. So anyway, I just want to go through these miners and kind of share with you my thoughts. Who knows? Maybe one of them would become big and outperform the other ones that I own. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.